is going to be cool.
The topics and opinions expressed on the Dudes and Beer podcast are intended for an audience of 18 and up and are solely those of the host and guest. They neither reflect the opinions or values of either the sponsors of Dudes and Beer or your mother. I mean, seriously, have you ever heard these guys? They'll talk about anything.
Whoa, hey, you think they're going to show it? They'll probably just blur it out. Whoa, check it out, Beavis.
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Dudes and Beer podcast. Welcome to episode 66, live on the internet. I am Chris Jordan, your host. With me, as always, are the trustees Stephen Bishop and Nelson Kugle.
Yo, yo, yo.
Tonight we will be doing a quick wrap-up of the Wrap It Up beat.
Wrap it up.
Yo, wrap it up.
You better wrap that.
We're going to do a wrap-up of the presidential town hall horror show that happened on Sunday night. And while talking about that, going to kind of stray into the topics of the hate baiting and mudslinging that are going on, as well as any solutions that were actually presented. And also go into a little bit about fact-checking and stuff like that, about actually turning websites into fact-checkers, about algorithmic searches, and the AI responsible for that kind of stuff. And on that topic, also go into the recent invention of an AI robot, of an actual melody. AI robots have actually started writing music now.
Oh, yeah.
That's how advanced
the
it's
Google
gotten.
one is.
And we're also going to talk a little bit about the possibilities of what may happen to the internet with AI and everything else, and the possible incursion of AI into our daily lives with things like Siri and regular searches on our phones. So whenever we get back from this quick message from our sponsor, we'll get into all of that right after this.
He don't even have his license, Lisa.
Crazy drunk driver.
Hey everybody, Chris Jordan, host of the Dudes and Beer podcast here. Has this ever happened to you? Tired of looking in your rearview mirror after a couple of drinks with friends, or worrying about no-refusal weekends and DUI stops? Are you planning a night on the town and want an easy, safe way to get around while still having fun? Well, Fare is the ride service for you. Simply download the easy-to-use and free Fare app from the Google Play Store or iTunes Marketplace and use promo code DUDES10 every time you ride with Fare to save 10% off your ride. Have a Fare driver you liked riding with? You can not only give them a review and tip, but you can add them to your preferred drivers list on your Fare app and request them every time you ride with Fare. You can schedule rides with Fare to pick you up immediately or as far as 30 minutes to 7 days in advance, eliminating the need for last-minute calls and allowing you to pre-schedule pickups in locations other than your home city. Perfect for those traveling for business or for fun. So don't forget to stop on by and download that free Fare app and use the coupon code DUDES10 every time you ride with Fare to get 10% off your ride. That's right, don't forget the coupon code is DUDES10. So be like Dudes and Beer, everybody. Party safe, use Fare, and drink responsibly. That's right, everybody. This is ACL Weekend number deuce.
Number
if
deuce?
I'm not mistaken. Is it number 2?
It's already over there.
Or is it second just ended?
just
We're
ended.
going into
Yeah.
the third is what it is.
Is there a third one?
I think so.
No,
No,
there's
it's
just
just
two.
two?
Yeah, just two.
Okay. Well, hopefully people used Fare whenever
Yeah.
they came to ACL. I saw plenty of flyers out on the
Dude,
street.
it's way worth spending $20-$30 to get a safe ride home than having a big-ass DWI bill.
That's it. $30 is way better than 30,000.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I mean, I use Fare to get back and forth to the studio frequently, and it's fantastic. It's super easy. You just pop right there, and it's one of the only apps I know of where you can actually schedule a ride like 7 days out.
And nothing can be priced for, peace of mind,
Yeah,
just knowing you're getting home safe, you ain't got to worry about
Well,
nothing.
not just that, but like, man, I saw posts from my friends, and I don't know. I guess some people, At 30, I was not interested in sleeping in cars anymore.
Right.
I'd spent my time working festivals and stuff and sleeping in my back seat
Oh,
and
come
shit
on, man.
like
It's
that.
fun having a hobo knock
Yeah,
on the window.
no, it's not. So, yeah, to me, it's one of those, like, I would much rather use fare and assure the fact that I will be sleeping in my comfortable bed whenever I wake up hungover in the morning instead of waking up in a car.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because there are all kind of crazy
You're kind of
street
tall,
closers
too, so
and
you're
shit
kind of
like
cramped
that.
in a car. But...
Oh, I'm more than cramped in just about any car beyond the year like 1978. Those cars I could stretch out in the back seat. Like, I could lay down in that shit. But, yeah, well, let's get into it here, guys. What did y'all think of the presidential debate the other day? I know Nelson watched it. I know you were working at the time.
Yeah,
but
and
I'm sure
I was
you've seen
catching.
quite a few.
Yeah, I was
clips.
catching. I caught a quarter or 30% of it. Here and there as I was working.
Yep.
I thought it was a shit show. It's just I don't even know what to think of it anymore.
It was
this is
horrifying.
unprecedented, not even being like a pun, but it's just unheard of. I've never seen a debate like this. Never in the history of our elections.
Two debates in a row where literally it's nothing. But normally you'll see a little bit of mudslinging and stuff like that happen.
Right.
But where literally it devolves into that shit and keeps going back to that shit consistently, like throughout it.
Right.
Where they're literally, and what drove me nuts more than anything is whenever a crowd applauds for somebody, which they know is going to be a brief applause, and they're like, "Be quiet back there, quiet." It's like, hey, man,
Well, they were told at the beginning.
They were told
not
at the beginning not to.
interrupt.
Yeah, that's true. And there's an interruptive applause, and then there's
not at a rock and
just
roll
giving
concert
a
over
little
here.
bit of applause for something that you agree to.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing is all the times they did interrupt with their applause, it was short. It wasn't like this whole
No, exactly.
So,
which is like, why even say it?
Well, that's the reason is they do say it because
Yeah.
they don't want it to get out of hand to that point to where it's wasting 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But for a 15-second, woo, fuck it.
Yeah.
Of course they're going to get told to shut the fuck up.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not going to get kicked out.
No.
But the whole reason they say it so it doesn't get blown.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
Keep it in
end up
mind.
into that.
Right.
But, I mean, to me, it's like you were saying, Stephen, I've yet to see a whole lot actually accomplished in any of the debates. We haven't seen anything talking about their platform, what their running strategy is, what they actually intend to do.
It's more of like a brawl, reality show, digging dirt on each other rather than talking about policy.
Yeah, and that's just it. Now, I want to talk about that for a quick minute or two, because that was one of the things that we brought up last week when Confucius was in studio from the FYO podcast. Fuck Your Opinion.
Yeah!
Check it out. On SoundCloud, iTunes.
Excuse me.
But one of the things that we were talking about was how Donald Trump ended up in this race due to pure celebrity. Mm-hmm. He got into this race because of celebrity. Like that's how he ended up in it to begin
Money
with.
talks these days.
And now it's to the point where he's become not necessarily a real political candidate, but he's become a viable candidate for president. And it's kind of frightening the fact that is how it arose, is out of pure celebrity.
Right.
On that note, I guess we kind of have to get into it. We made some allusion to it earlier in our Facebook video before we started, but let's listen to the much listened to info that came from Trump just before the bombshell that came just before the
Enlighten
debate
me.
That was released Friday.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
And that's just it. That's the one point that I want to point out is that he says that. When you're a star, they'll let you do anything.
Let you do anything.
He didn't say that he had done it, but he said that he could do it because he was a star. And whenever you look at a lot of the shit, there are so many, like, good God, Bill Cosby's been in the news for the last year because of it.
Right.
And looking at trial
when he made
and
this
everything
statement,
else.
it's almost as if the listeners are assuming he has done it in a way.
Well, and whenever it's spun that way and
Right.
talked about that way, sure.
Yeah.
It's hard not to.
At the debate, the second debate, town hall style meeting, he did not say, I did not do those things. Like, they asked him, did you do those things? He said that was all locker room talk.
Yeah, it was nothing but locker room talk.
They asked him specifically.
He said right there, because he doesn't have to, because he says in the thing, I could do this, and I would get away with it. Not that I've done this.
Right.
I could do this.
Could mean, yeah.
He presupposed himself in what he said to begin with.
Yeah, but there was many scenarios in that time where he was asked certain questions to answer and did not answer those questions.
I'm not going to say that he didn't answer questions. Hell, Hillary Clinton was asked questions that she didn't give answers to as well.
But even though he could do those things, he did not answer the question, have you done those things?
He didn't.
I think they're both pretty shitty on answering questions, really.
They're both absolutely shitty on answering questions.
They're a great debatable couple because, I mean, they have the level of the same, I think.
You're shaking your head no.
No, that's completely wrong.
Okay, go ahead. How?
What?
What questions were answered on Sunday's debate? Or in the prior debate? Like, with all forthrightness, and was there a straight out answer, or was there a hem and a haw and a juke move to bring something else in at the end?
No, I mean there's no question that was asked that could be answered right off the bat. They did talk about the topic.
They did.
Trump never talked about anything of the questions he was asking.
No, he didn't. I'm blaming both candidates for that equally.
Right.
Neither one of them truthfully answer any question that comes their way. They're both hemming and hawing and basically telling people what the fuck they want to hear, what their constituents want to hear. Neither one of them have given any actual platform that they stand for, any solution to a problem. They've done a great job echoing the problems that exist. And Tia pointed that out in the episode she was on a couple weeks ago, where they've both done a great job reiterating the problems that already exist. But are they doing anything to actually answer those questions? Are they putting forth any solution? No.
Hillary Clinton, yes.
She's put forth a couple of them, but
more so than Trump. Trump has not talked any specific details. He has not talked about any economical policy. He has not talked about facts and numbers. He has talked about how everything has gone to shit and is blaming it on another party and blaming it on other people. Right. And he wants to make it beautiful.
And no facts or how to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Trump, if you do want to make it beautiful, tell me, what are you going to do with the fucking question that was asked to you?
Yeah.
Don't fucking start blaming it on someone else and be like, it's all fucking wrong. It's all wrong.
Right. I can totally see that. I agree.
Hillary has answered questions in there.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the reasons why articles have started coming out stating exactly what I've said since the beginning, that it seems like a really big setup to assure and clinch the election for Hillary Clinton. Because that's the only reason why some jack like this would be the head of the Republican Party right now. And why people in droves are leaving the Republican Party, and why Republicans are basically saying, you know what we need to do is make damn sure that we have control of the Senate and the Congress right now. We need to make sure that we have control of the House and the Congress because it's quite obvious what's going to be happening.
Right.
I don't think this is any sort of setup. I have seen this coming for 2 decades. The Conservative Party has gone so far right every fucking minute of our fucking lives.
Yeah.
They are so extreme right, they are so corrupt and so conspiracy theory oriented that they don't understand the actual facts and proof of what's actually happening in our economy. And the Liberal Party, that scared me, and the Liberal Party has been trying to mend to that side. Like, your far left would have been Bernie Sanders, right?
Yeah,
and then Hillary, she's like medium, slight right. And Obama was the same way. Obama actually was lenient towards the bills that the Republican Party wanted to pass for his 2 terms he's been in office. The Conservative Party has gone fucking whack, dude. I've seen it.
I agree.
And there are conservative leaders and conservative politicians who are like, what the fuck is going on with the right side?
Yeah.
What is going on with the Republican Party?
Right.
This is not what we're supposed to be doing. But then you got all the nut and wacko jobs out there who have been listening to, Alex Jones, Glenn Beck, Tex Mars, and all of that fucking bullshit that's fed in their fucking radio, and they turn on Fox News, and that's all that is fed into them, and they don't actually have an outside contact from the world, and they don't want to actually expand to other news literature because they think what they read and they think what they hear is right and what is facts. And yes, they do give you news, but they obscure it for their own positive
You got to read
benefits.
between the lines
Well,
when you're
and
listening to those things.
and it's the same way in what would be called the drive-by media, as we've mentioned before. It's the exact same way.
And you know who caused that? Not caused it. Who came up with that term?
Who's that?
A fucking Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh.
I think that is
Yeah.
like Rush, man.
One of-
Honestly, I used to listen to him.
Yeah.
That guy was
Right.
literally.
Me too.
He
Way
was.
back.
I mean, he was right, but he wasn't so fucking nutty.
Right, now
And then-
he's nutty.
Now,
Now
I
he's-
don't know.
I wouldn't say that Rush is nutty.
No.
Quite honestly. I mean, he's still got a pretty good firm head on his
Right, right,
shoulders
right.
and is straight up talking the same
Right.
thing I'm talking.
Yeah, I don't
where
think
it's like,
he's nutty.
Right
He's just
now,
kind of gone a little.
well, it's like we were saying earlier before Nelson got here. We're literally right now voting for prom king or queen.
Right, yeah.
It's a fucking popularity contest is what we've been reduced to. It's not a choice between politicians.
It's almost
We've
like a
either got-
reality show
we've
type of deal.
Exactly. We've
I mean,
either
what are we
got-
going to have next? Kim
Yeah,
whatever
are we
name,
going to have
you know?
Kim Kardashian
Yeah.
running for Senate next?
Well, there was a great
You know.
Bill Maher episode where he was talking about the future of politicians and voting, and he was in the year 2030,
Yeah.
and he was Kanye West.
Yeah.
Running
See?
for political office.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because you were absent last week. Because
I was.
you went out to a screening of probably the most prophetic movie to come out in the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
Idiocracy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, actually mirrors what's going on.
Yeah, oh no, it is a complete fucking echo as to what's going on in the world around us.
10-year
Believe me.
anniversary of the film.
Yeah, and you know,
It's scary.
It absolutely puts forth the concept of a guy who goes through hibernation and comes to in like 10 years ahead of time, and the world is, or no, more than that.
Yeah, I think it was 250
It was
years.
250 years, something like that, and the world has just gone to utter shit.
Yeah.
There's a professional wrestler, Macho Man Camacho.
Yeah, Macho
that
Man
is-
Camacho,
that has been
that's right.
elected president for like 8 terms in a row, and is, the whole world has gone dire because Brondo, a
Brondo.
soft drink company, took over.
It's got
and
electric lights. It's got what our body craves.
It's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
I think my neighbor next to me is feeding his plants Gatorade now. If I
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
come on.
but literally, like the whole world, the Earth salts over
That's scary.
because of all the electrolytes that they're sprinkling onto crops instead of using water.
Well, it's awesome. It's funny to see, like, the preface of the movie is Luke Wilson. He plays Luke Wilson. He plays the most ordinary person.
Yeah.
Like, he is literally the most ordinary person.
Right.
Yeah.
On a scale of IQ, on a
Yeah,
scale of
he's just
social.
he's this normal dude.
And when he gets to the future, he is
Oh my God,
literally
it's
the
hilarious.
most intelligent motherfucker.
Right.
On the
yeah,
world.
yeah. He becomes like the science advisor to the White House.
Yeah.
And then
got the most intelligence all of a sudden, right?
I think it was Frank Caliento. He was in there, and they're
Yeah.
in the White Office.
Yeah.
And he's like, "That sounds smart."
That's-
He sounds like he's smart.
He sounds really smart.
Why- sounds really
Why
smart.
be a little fish
That's
in a
it.
big ocean when you could be a big fish in a
Who's
small
that?
pond? You know?
Oh, that's Macho Man's brother. He's head of the Department of Education.
Yeah.
But literally, like, that's what I feel we're going through right now. Like, those are the offerings that have been
How
given
ironic
us.
that movie totally goes with what we're in today. You know,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
totally mirrors reality. It almost seems. It almost
Absolutely.
seems like he had prior knowledge of the future.
Yeah.
when he wrote
and,
that movie.
You know, it's one of those. Is Hillary Clinton the most experienced person and the best candidate for the job?
Right.
Yes. Is she the best person for the job? Should
No.
she be president? I really don't think so. That's just me.
Right.
I don't know. If I had that many bodies connected to me, I guarantee you I would not be sitting here. There would probably be some fucking Netflix show about me and whether or not I was in jail for the right reasons.
And can you imagine other people in other countries that are actually seeing the same
Yeah.
thing we're seeing? And I mean, come on, this is our presidential debate.
Yeah, but to
and
be
these are our
fair,
candidates that
to be fair, man, tune into the Italian elections sometime. All right, tune into the elections in El Salvador and Mexico or anywhere else in the world or France, and they are just as fucking. They're just as crazy as this. Like they're just
But
as fucking wild, and
but
they talk
as-
about crazy ass shit.
Right. But as the founding country,
Right.
to have pretty much all the other world look up to us and understand how we need to move forward as a country and an individual.
It's supposed to be looked up to.
Don't get me wrong. Are our founding fathers turning in their fucking graves like a spit?
Well, I'm talking present time, but I get where you're coming from. But where we are now, like the globalizations look to us on how they need to work. Like, we're like
we set the example, kind of what they want to follow in a way.
Yeah. And at this point in time, man, it's
what kind of example are we setting?
Well,
number one, you have to
it's understandable.
That presupposes, and that's one big problem with our foreign policy, is that we presuppose the fact that every country in the world is ready for our type of democracy, a republic. A democratic republic, and that's what you can't forget is the fact that we're a republic. We're a representative republic, and that kind of shit. Especially whenever you start getting into countries ruled by religion, stuff like that, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fly, and that's been shown time and time again. Where the elections get stymied, the elections get like rigged. You know, not like our election. Where we're dealing with things like a defunct. And before the election happens, folks, I'm going to do my best to get my mother-in-law on an episode. And I know that's strange, but believe it or not, my mother-in-law was actually a voting member of the Electoral College in Massachusetts.
Woo,
so it would be very interesting to get the perspective of somebody who was a voting member of the Electoral College to talk about that process and why it exists and should it even exist now.
Right.
Because you'd hear some interesting views there. So hopefully we can get Mom Pacheco on soon before the election occurs and get some of her feedback and some of her thought about it. But as we spoke in the last episode, a lot of the problem that exists now is with people's mentality about the government. And with it's no necessarily no fault of their own. They should have learned it in civics. Here in Texas, we're one of the only states in the country that requires you to pass government and economics your senior year.
Right, I remember that.
Before you graduate. Like if you get a D in government or economics, you have to repeat.
Right.
You either take it in summer school and you get a better passing grade, or you repeat the year. And I know a few people that repeated the year because I almost repeated the year because of my grade in economics. Not government, but in economics. So I'm not going to lie about that. I'm not that great with it. But I also didn't do my homework at all for any class my senior year, except maybe astronomy.
I like to say it's very imperative that kids today learn government economics and a great deal of history, you know, and not biased history or history that's changed or nothing like that.
That's just it. And I was telling you about that episode of Nerdist that I was listening to with Amy in the car the other day with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was saying that was one of the main issues, and why people like him and Bill Nye succeed and excel the way that they do is because they can use the means of pop culture to explain the science behind pop culture.
Right.
Oh, you would have said, oh yeah. Luke Skywalker just went through warp drive to get to Tatooine. Well, let's talk about warp drive, guys. Here's the science behind warp drive.
Nice.
And they can relate the high science concept with something very basic that most people already have a concept of.
Right.
And just expound upon that and make science interesting to where people want to learn. And he said the real barrier that exists now is, number one, of course, like we were saying earlier in the Facebook video, the attention span. You're dealing with an ADD attention span, so most people have a 3 to 5 minute attention span max. You know, and literally to deal with that, but also deal with the fact that the education system now has turned into a regurgitative testing process. It's no longer a critical thinking process where it's take in information from various sources, sift it, sieve it. Learn to critically think and learn to place these puzzle pieces together to figure out the answer yourself.
Think, but what to think.
It's giving you the answer and saying, remember this so you can pass the standardized test 3 months from now.
Right.
I remember questions being on tests and stuff. It kind of like read a little paragraph or two and then give me like, what was this person thinking or whatever. And it was almost like an opinion answer and still being my opinion was wrong. And it was on what I thought.
We had essay
questions.
questions.
See, I liked essay questions over A, B, C, or D.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here, and I often did well in the essay questions because not necessarily was I right, but I could at least express my opinion and defend my point.
Right.
Which I do on this show frequently, like before the show earlier. I play devil's advocate 90% of the time. It's not necessarily what I'm thinking, but it's a concept to spur the conversation on, the what if.
Yeah,
what if this? And like they have a game in improv that Amy plays with her students called What If, and it's what if, and then people have to act it out. Mm-hmm. We play devil's advocate here a lot, like what if this is the case?
Right.
So it's not necessarily like, believe me, I'm far from a Trump supporter, but what if?
Yeah, me too.
Like what if that does end up being our macho Camacho moment? Could we be facing that right now?
Well,
right now
we are facing it
with the video that came out and the audio associated. Hillary got an 11-point jump over the weekend. So,
I'm sure. Yeah.
I also kind of want, as a Hillary voter, I also want to put out there towards people who are flipping out, who are scared if Trump gets into office.
Yeah.
Just look, man, if Trump gets into office, it's not the end of the world. People are literally like saying it's going to be in the world. No, it's not. It might be a shit show. We might have some crazy nuclear warfare and shit like that. It might not even get to that point. We have too many people in the office that are on his side that won't let his stupidity get in the way.
The thing is, that's not
Tell him why, Chris.
Right
Tell him
here,
why, Chris.
right here. There are and I was telling Stephen earlier, his job has more duties than the president. The president literally has 10 powers. That's it. He's not the one that declares war. He's not the one that says I'm going to use the button. The Joint Chiefs of Staff make that decision.
But that's the thing, is when Trump, there was a press meeting with Trump about 3 months ago, and he was talking that when he gets into White House, he is firing every fucking staff member and implying his own people.
Right.
Sure.
So, with those set of rules, he still has majority lead. If he gets those people where he needs to.
Yeah, but the thing is, war is still declared by Congress. It's not declared by the president.
There's a lot of people that are in line to stop him.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. The checks and balances are there to stop him. Like we were saying earlier, the people running for president promise all kinds of whack ass shit.
They promise all day long.
By these 10 rules, they cannot supply it.
Right.
By these 10 rules, they can't pass any law technically.
Those two candidates can be up there promising all day long, and they that's not what they can do, really.
Well, really, the only reason the president can even make an executive order is because he is acting commander-in-chief, because we have an active military right now. That's really the only reason.
And to give the listeners a little insight, we're actually looking at the 10 bullet points of what a president can do by the Constitution.
Yeah, and these are taken according to Article 2, Section 2 and 3 about the president in the Constitution, and he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States and each state's militia when the nation has need of it. He has power to obtain information and opinions from heads of the executive departments. He may grant pardons and reprieves for crimes against the United States. He can make treaties with other countries with the approval of the Senate. He appoints ambassadors, federal judges, and head of executive departments, all subject to the approval of the Senate. Mm-hmm. The president also has the power to fill any vacancies that may happen while the Senate is in recess. He must report to Congress from time to time on the State of the Union and recommend whatever measures he thinks are necessary. Number 7, may call members of Congress together on extraordinary occasions, as well as adjourn their meetings when they cannot agree on their own about when to do this. Receives foreign ambassadors and other public officials, is responsible for enforcing the nation's laws, and issues commissions to all officers of the United States. So, Yeah, like that's pretty much the powers of the president. That's what he can do, and every power there is utterly checked by Congress.
Right, I was going to say his check is Congress.
You know, to say like his finger's on the button.
Right.
No, Congress would declare that, and then the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the heads of the military would say, "We recommend this solution, Mr. President." And then at that point, the dude with the football comes over, and some codes are read, and everything's verified through computers.
It's not 7777 anymore.
It's not just a
really was
button.
at one point.
Yeah, it's not just a big jolly candy-like button that he reaches over and hits. So a lot of people's panic is really misplaced. There have been people that weren't career politicians in place as president before. What blows my mind, though, is the people who still utterly think that there is no hope for an alternative or another party in this country. And that's what still blows my mind to this day. And it is because of the electoral college system. Because they're the ones that really choose who gets elected and who can be on a party ticket in a state to begin with. So a lot really starts and rests there, and it's really interesting because not a lot of people realize that. Like that's how we find out who's available for debate, and why people like Jill Stein are not just turned away at the door of debate, but escorted off property by the police.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Well, it's because by the Electoral College they haven't been declared an official running person. They haven't won any electoral college votes in primary states.
She couldn't just have a seat in the audience somewhere? Like,
nope.
Damn.
No, they won't let her in because she's an opposing candidate. So, but they also won't let them debate.
That's harsh. Yeah.
So it's like you really can't consider the third party until they're allowed to debate, and that's kind of horrifying. So if you actually used the popular opinion instead of the electoral college to allow the debate, then you would actually see third parties in there. You would actually see Jill Stein and the other options that are available for an open debate. But until then, it's going to be them responding to debate questions outside of a debate forum where they don't get to question their opponent. They don't get to question the other running people, which I really don't think makes for a fair all-around election.
No.
So that's the rigging to me. Will I be voting? Yes. Will I be voting a major party? No. Mainly because I've never voted a major party. I've never really bought into that system.
I think this election should be a wake-up call to the American people that
the
two-party system is whacked.
The only reason Bernie's not on
Bernie's
not on the ticket is because he decided to run as a Democrat. Had he hung his bell on staying an independent and being an independent, he may have actually had the electoral college votes to change shit for the first time.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely would have been a better.
He ended up going Democrat, and that kind of swayed things a lot. And really, like Hillary Clinton herself said before the first debate, or before the Democratic National Committee, rather, or convention on Meet the Press, where she was like, no, literally, you know, the Democratic Party is the party of the center left, and for a long time we focused on just the center and we've forgotten about the left. Bernie's had the left, so we brought in his votes to make the party stronger. The problem is he's never been a Democrat, so that to me was just a big chess move situation.
That was a chess move, dude.
That was interesting to say the least. And you know, going into that brings us right into the actual rigging of the DNC by Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the following leaks that occurred with that. And just considering some of the stuff going on with the internet and the election, and you know, number one, fact checking. It cracks me up to hear people like Hillary saying, you know, I've turned my website into a fact checking machine. And it's like, great, like you can't rig an algorithmic search. Like you can't give the parameters of a search to an algorithm and tell it what news sources to pull from.
It's easy for a coder.
You can easily cherry pick that information. It's no different than an RSS search or something like that. So, but using stuff like the internet and seeing things like what Russia's done as of late, hacking into shit, Of course, WikiLeaks has always been at the top of the list.
Sure has, and they were even mentioned. But they were in a question at the debate.
They were in a question at the debate, and it wasn't really necessarily answered whenever it was questioned.
Right,
but,
exactly. I noticed that too.
And it has become one of those things. Unfortunately, Julian Assange, much like many other people who used to present alternative news, they have really become kind of manic in their own right as far as posting things and putting things out and how they go about doing it, and have really started doing stuff, I think, to sensationalize themselves.
Yes, yeah.
Now, granted, a lot of that is, of course, to keep his website alive.
Right.
You know? Because he's lived outside of the U.S. for a long time for a reason.
Posted up at that embassy for a long time.
Yeah, and was protected by Russia for a while,
yeah.
as is Edward Snowden.
Nice.
You know, so you look at all of that. You look at the things that have come out over the last year or so with Edward Snowden's revelations into the PRISM program, and the effects that it can have and what it can search for, what it can do. You start looking at that, and it can become really easy to literally bring about different searches and different search results. It hadn't been shown to be done yet, but can it be done? Yes. You can absolutely rig elections that entire way, and they're talking about many elections going to online and stuff like that, which to me is bothersome.
Oh, that's weird.
We'll have to have Mike Davis on before the election as well, because he's actually judge of elections in his county and has fought to keep electronic voting out of the means of voting there.
That'd be almost like somebody voting from the convenience of their living room or something, right? That's crazy.
Well, and there have been cases. There was a case in Houston where before a mayoral election, it was right after the hanging Chad incident and all that kind of stuff. It was an election right after where literally it was shown that electronic voting machines were broken into and rigged beforehand.
Oh, like the Diebold company that had the Diebold's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, one of the latest issue of Bloomberg News that I have is talking about the electoral votes on the electronic ballot machines and how California has completely 100% made those machines illegal in their state to vote.
Wow.
Yeah. Quite a few states have moved for that. And I wish we would do that here because it is entirely so easy now. It's not anything that's difficult. Good God, I work black hat conventions and stuff, and I've literally seen a dude through like a nightlight that you can program with an app on your phone, literally seen him tie into that through Bluetooth on his fucking computer and then break into the home computer through that.
Jeez.
And it's funny because that article is not talking about that, but it's talking about how unreliable these machines are.
Oh, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
They get pallets of these machines, and on a couple of these pallets, there have been signs of broken. Like, there are signs that are stapled onto these pallets, like certain machines in this pallet are broken.
Right.
Like, they need to be fixed.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that they used, right?
Well,
I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah. It's an ongoing issue, and the question comes to bear as that stuff happens, as we go to electronic voting, how long before an election is hacked? You know? They've talked about, I guess, DHS watching over elections and taking care of the elections, and that's kind of horrifying to me to think that like
Here we go.
armed police force will be monitoring election offices.
So the military, huh?
But yeah, well, pseudo-military,
Yeah,
not necessarily the military. They're, it's kind of like having TSA monitor the elections. But yeah, to me, I get worried whenever you start bringing technology into things like that.
Right.
We've got a few minutes to wrap this
Leaves
part
a lot
of it
of
up,
open doors,
and we'll start getting into the concept of AI and stuff like that coming into the next part of the episode right after this break coming up. But as we wrap this part up, to me, like I said, it's worrisome to me whenever you start making voting easy.
Yeah.
Because voting shouldn't, I'm not one for the voter ID laws and all that kind of stuff. I'm not about that. I think that everybody should register, and that, it should be a process. It should be a process. It should be a very deliberate process. It shouldn't be a process like whenever I go to the bank and I'm 6 inches lower in my car than I am in my truck, and I can't hit the fucking button right.
And possibly it should stay on paper, right? Stay on paper.
You could do a Scantron. You could just as easily do a Scantron, but then you're going to have the issue of did people erase it and refill the thing? You can do all sorts of close-ended systems, but to me, nothing will beat the punch card.
Right.
Nothing will beat the punch card. Even with hanging chads, we had a popular vote. Even with hanging chads, we had an agreed upon popular vote. What ended up happening was the Electoral College took over shit. And we got selected, not elected.
Anything that goes to electronics or internet or computers or anything like that leaves wide open doors for hackers. Nothing is hack safe these days.
That's just it.
Yeah, it's vulnerability. It's vulnerability. It leaves it wide open.
Yeah, when the Pentagon is getting hacked a couple times a year, I'm going to say that an election could easily get hacked.
Yeah,
I'll just put it that way.
When NASA's photos leak.
Well, that's neither here nor there. I mean, whether or not NASA photos that are leaked are real or not, whether or not anything that's leaked is friggin' real or not.
Well, the one guy got prison sentence for it. So, he hacked it. Obviously, he hacked it.
No, he hacked it, and that's just it. We've heard about 2 major hacks on secured information in the United States just this last year. So whenever you're talking about major forces like that who are actively taking part in counter-hacking and in counter-espionage in the electronic field, you're talking about the best and brightest, and not just the best and brightest coders, but the best and brightest hackers.
You know the FBI is actually running a campaign about hiring hackers. You can actually go to their website if you're a hacker and actually get a job with them. If you're good at it.
Like I said, I work black hat conventions, and those are dudes that are hackers. Yeah. They are hired by major corporations to take care of security and stuff like that. And the speakers at these things are, the former head of Cyber Command. Stuff like that. Those are the keynote speakers. And whenever you hear the keynote speakers saying things like, 5 years ago, the FBI told me with just your cell phone data and your regular emails, they could predict where you would be in 2 hours with 85% accuracy. Now, once again, I repeat that. They could predict where you would be in 2 hours with 85% accuracy. And that's just with trending on where your cell phone was on days whenever you made calls, what you searched, where you went, Google things that you looked at, and stuff like that in your local area. They could predict where you would be with 85% accuracy. So that's just with metadata. That's pretty damn incredible and pretty high accuracy for 5 years ago. So you think about the Moore's Law and the whole acceleration that happens and the processing speed doubles every year and a half. And what we have availability to is way not what's actually being made and prototyped and used in these applications.
There's no difference than a stalker outside my house stalking me for however long he needs to know that information on what I'm doing on a daily basis compared to what they do digitally and still know that same information.
Unless he was trying to grab you by the pussy.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Wait, say that again. Okay, we're going back to 85% accuracy to know where you're at in 12 hours?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, 2.
What were you just saying?
That there's no difference than a physical stalker outside your house saying that has stalked you enough to know exactly that same amount or, where you're going to be in those 2 hours of your daily routines than somebody on the other end of a computer or collecting information on you to know the same exact information. It's the same. Yeah,
but let's
doing it electronically.
Right. Let's take the 85%.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's come back on that. Let's take a quick break. Make a note, 85% accuracy by the FBI within 2 hours. All right? When we come back, we will continue this and go into the wonderful world of AI and artificial intelligence.
Ooh.
And we are back, boys and girls. Woo! Once again, this is episode 66 of the Dudes and Beer Podcast, part 2.
Ow!
I'm Chris Jordan, your host. With me is Nelson Kugle, Stephen Bishop, and we were just talking about the FBI a few years ago, according to the former head of Cyber Command, being able to predict where people would be within 2 hours with an 85% accuracy rate, due to social media, all kinds of stuff.
See, that's where I kind of want to get on the specifics and on the detail. Like, if you're a 9-to-5 gentleman who works at a pizza delivery place, at a certain point in time, and you have a routine, I can see you fitting into that 85%.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why it's strong to understand 85% at 2 hours.
Yeah.
And who?
Well, within 2 hours,
many,
they could predict where you would be with an 85% accuracy.
Yes, but how many people did they actually observe? Was it 1,000? Was it 2,000? Was it 200,000?
They were saying.
But that's what you should always have in your mind, Steve. You should always think about the specifics and the details to these numbers.
Well, the reason why they didn't let that information out, your question is very good, because what if they did reveal that question or answer, I'd say, and then that just showed how many people they've been watching.
That was anybody that had social media accounts, had a cell phone where it could be tracked, anything like that, through any kind of data. All they have to do is look up your cell phone number, and they can get all kinds of pings as to what you're like. Yeah. You know, so going through charts, like he said, anybody, like even somebody who sits there, like I'm self-employed. Right. So I'm sitting my ass at home most of the time unless I'm on a gig. They could pretty much predict the fact with 85% accuracy
but
from my cell phone data,
number?
My ass is going to be parked right there at my house.
But based upon what number? See, Nelson was asking.
No, they were saying
what number?
The only people that would be immune were people that had no cell phone, had no social media, had no means of contact like that, had no IP address tied to them, anything like that.
So a good majority of the whole United States.
Yeah, the majority of the United States, they would be able to find with that accuracy rate.
Yeah, but you also fall into that 85% if you're like, all right, sweetie, I'm on the way. I'm leaving Sprouts grocery store.
No, absolutely.
And then #Sprouts.
Yeah.
And then you flip that over to Twitter.
Exactly. No, and that's what I'm saying. It's all that data that they use together. And you roll your eyes, but most people don't connect those dots. Most people don't see that web of information that they are putting out on a daily basis. You know, and that's one of the dangers.
Is that they're doing it voluntarily.
Well, that's just it. And that's one of the dangers with social media and children, is because, hey, they're just putting pictures up. But, like, my niece had a situation at her school and I called my brother because I was self-employed and I was at home, and I saw my niece's timeline, and, you know, one of her friends had recently died at school, stuff like that. She was talking about, like, oh, you know, it's so hard right now. And there was this dude who was really asking some personal shit. And like, oh, you know, it feels so bad. You know, if you need to talk, feel free to give me a shout. And it's like, I don't know any parent that's going to say that. I really don't.
Give me a shout.
Yeah. You know, like
preteen.
To a teen, like 13, 14-year-old girl. So I called my brother at work, and I was like, yo, bud, have you been on Megan's fucking Facebook today? You need to go check this shit out. And he went, and he actually, like, ended up, like, Google stalking the guy and finding him, and he was a fucking creeper. Like, you went, and all of his friends were, like, preteen girls and boys and stuff like that. Like, there was not a single person in his friends list that was, like, he was, like, 35 years old. They were all 19 and younger. Woo! And it was like,
It leaves the door open for so many things.
My brother had some choice words with him and got rid of that gentleman. And was like, you need to unfriend my daughter and go away quickly.
And then I will kill you.
Nice.
You know, you haven't said anything that's actionable, but you're doing some creeper ass shit right now with my teenage daughter, and I don't appreciate it. And it stopped. But like like you were saying, people do things and they don't realize. They don't realize that every time they check in somewhere, they're leaving a metadata trail behind them. which good or bad. I mean, hell, one of the apps that my wife told me about for our phone, one of the options that we have is actually Last Minute, I think it's called. And literally, if your cell phone is dying on battery, the last thing it does is ping your location. So if you were to be stranded out in the woods,
right,
and your cell phone died, and suddenly my wife didn't hear from me for 3 days, she could go onto the account, and there's my last location ping. There's at least a radius where they can start searching. So that's pretty cool. Those things are there, but at the same time,
But what do you mean?
Well, I mean, not many people realize how often your cell phone pings to a location, how easily that information is traced, how easily.
But how is that affecting your life?
On the greater scale of things, it's not. It's affecting your privacy.
But it's. And then if I ask this question, we're going to go in whirlwind.
No.
Yes. Okay, you have a privacy. Mm-hmm. But when you buy that phone and you update that phone, you sign to a privacy policy.
Right. You sure did.
So at that point, you have stripped all of your privacy.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I'm with you, but most people don't read that EULA, bro. Most people don't read the 80-page document.
But it should be a fucking given.
Oh,
if you're not going to read an 86-page update on your iPhone.
I'm with you. Not many people read the information with iTunes Music either, or iMusic, where it actually takes the copy of the music on your hard drive and converts it to a lower quality copy. There are many musicians that lost their personal music that they were making in high-def format, and it became an MP3 form. Because it was stripped off their hard drive, put into the cloud, and made into an MP3, and then deleted from their hard drive. Now, was that in the 60-page end-user license agreement? Yes, it was. Yeah. As was the statement that you could take no litigation against Apple for that happening. That you could not hold anybody responsible for that. You know what?
To go back 33 minutes ago, this is idiocracy.
It is.
Like, this is fucking people not reading.
I'm with you. Right. Because...
And that's where I get to the point. It's like...
Dude, we've got a fucking disclaimer for this show.
They know we don't have time, and most people aren't going to take the time to read all that stuff. You know, kind of like what the Patriot Act was hidden under a bunch of stack of papers and shit like that. Or let's say you're watching a commercial of pharmaceuticals. How about all that fine print at the bottom?
But to take this into the AI realm, what has to happen in order for that to take place is they have to be able to use this usable data in a form and put it into an algorithmic program that searches for the end result.
Right.
And all the stuff that you see in movies, like they've already talked about predictive crime technology.
Oh, yeah.
That you see in movies.
They even
like
can
Minority
say
Report.
Now that if you have a gene that they can predict if you're going to be psychotic.
Well, they can't do that 100%.
If you have a gene?
So
you know people without genes?
Ooh. Depending on...
Come on now.
I like it.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you. They can definitely tell the genetic markers that give somebody a propensity, but that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going to be an addict, somebody's going to be a psychopath. So much of that depends on breeding and the environment in which someone was brought up in. Right. Yes, Nelson.
Oh, I was just raising my hand.
You were just
psychotic.
You were just fitting the bill.
Psychotic and breeding right here, raising my hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost being guilty before you're guilty of anything.
But we have started using predictive algorithms. Even if you start typing shit into Google, once you type things enough, it starts completing sentences for you. It starts completing thoughts. It's interesting that this last week,
I absolutely love that.
It's wild. It's wild.
It's
incredible. It's incredible.
I type in my dryer is broken, and I start typing in a serial number, and it finishes the last four, and it says Maytag, and I'm like, boom, bitch. Yeah. That's what I want. Thank you, Google. Thank you. all of the algorithms y'all have created over the last 3 decades. I thank you so much. You are providing the world of a social need that we have been needing. And you are providing a future of idiotic people understanding how they need to form a sentence.
Well, the thing is, though,
people start typing in shit and it finishes it, those idiotic people need to be like, oh, so that's how you spell problems.
Yes.
Great, now I know.
Right. But Google doesn't actually think in full sentences.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It sure the hell can compose music that sounds like the Bee Gees.
Well, Google didn't do that. Google didn't do that, but an AI recently did. And it didn't come up with the words. It came up with the melody of the line. It came up with the melody of the music. And that's what I want to get into.
A lot of people that would listen to it even said that it even so many people thought it was the Bee Gees.
Well, that it was very reminiscent of it. Yeah. And, it's very interesting to me that we've gotten to that place with computers. Because I remember back in the day with Dr. Spatzo where you typed something and it said it and stuff like that. And it was absolutely amazing and phenomenal. At that point, my computer literally had a turbo button that took it to 1 megabyte.
Whoa.
Dude.
Yeah, it was a beast of a machine, my friend.
And so we're talking many years later.
It was made for gaming.
I watch Linus Tech Talk. I think it's Linus Tech Talk. Shout out to Linus.
Okay.
I forgot. I'm sorry that I don't remember your YouTube page. But anyways, just watching some of his builds, he does PC builds.
Okay.
He's got 3.6 million followers.
Jeez.
Nice.
That's big.
Yeah, that's
anyways,
huge.
Like some of these builds he's done, it's like 64 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
64.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember Windows 95 just typing away, pulling up, being able to play like little
12.
downloaded AOL games.
Yeah.
And I was like 12 megs of RAM. He's running 64 gigs of RAM. He's running like, he just did this 8K video. He had a machine that was doing 8K resolution at 67 frames per second, which is insane for video games.
Jeez.
He was running a dual parallel graphics card at like 16 gigs.
Well,
with 64 gigs of RAM.
That's what's being used more than anything is actually video cards.
That is where your memory plays the biggest.
It's
memory,
dedicated. It's
dedicated memory, and it keeps your fucking system running.
When you start, because if you remember, whenever the PS3s first came out, there was an article that came out where the Air Force had literally linked like 300 of them together to use the video cards to simulate nuclear blasts.
Well, actually, if you look at the PS3 system, I think it's over 700. If you take 700 PS3s and link them together, it doesn't even compare to the PS4.
Yeah.
It's a teraflop. A teraflop on the PS4 is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's wrong. And that's what I'm saying. Like the calculations that we've gotten to now are absolutely phenomenal. We've aired this clip before last time when we did an episode about AI. My brother and I did it, and we aired this clip. But I'm going to play it again. It's about 1.5 minutes long, but it's literally a clip of an android that was built to mimic Philip K. Dick. Of course, the person who wrote Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, also known as Blade Runner, as the movie. And in that, they used a test called the Turing test, which we've actually had the first time ever where this last year an AI has passed the Turing test, which is the test as to whether or not a computer is thinking like a person. Whether or not a computer can fool a person into it thinking it's talking to a person instead of a computer. And that test was used in Blade Runner, which is why I'm bringing it up. And Philip K. Dick was the one that really brought that test to light, really used it in this aspect to say what would happen with computers in the future, what would happen once androids get to the point and robots get to the point that they're just like people. They look like people. They're indistinguishable from people. So this dude has actually gone through and built an android, and not just built it, but its memory has been uploaded with all of the writings of Philip K. Dick, all of the interviews of Philip K. Dick, all the personal diaries of Philip K. Dick, audio of him, as well as regular base of knowledge and stuff like that. And it basically forms its own answers out of this readily available
and that
knowledge.
alone, when it forms its own answers.
And it'll explain a little bit about what it does. Here we go. This is from a PBS documentary. So.
Nova.
ask me if I can make choices or is everything I do and say is programmed. The best way I can respond to that is to say that everything humans, animals, and robots do is programmed, to a degree.
So how much of that is coming from what you've programmed it to say?
It's a mix. Some of it's coming from knowledge on the web, some of it is written.
And as my technology improves, it is anticipated that I will be able to integrate new words that I hear and learn online and in real time. I may not get everything
the robot
right,
just answered him as
say
well.
the wrong thing and sometimes not know what to say, but every day I make progress. Pretty remarkable, huh?
Now, here's my favorite part. Right
You're
here.
a very good-looking man.
You're starting to overinflate my ego.
Do you think robots will take over the world?
Jeez, dude. Yo got the big questions cooking today.
That's not a dude typing that.
But you're my friend, and I'll remember my friends, and I will be good to you. So don't worry. Even if I evolve into Terminator, I'll still be nice to you. I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo, where I can watch you for old time's sake.
Yeah, so the robot said that he would watch us in his people.
Nice to know he's going to take care of me in the zoo.
As long as he likes you.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
he turns it, what I loved is if I turn into Terminator.
Yeah. If I turned into
Number
Terminator.
one, how did the computer know that that was the end result? It was Terminator and Skynet.
I know, right?
The computer just made a pop culture reference on its own. That's pretty
And it
remarkable.
seemed the computer had a little humor in his answers.
And that's all algorithmic searches for information that the computer has run across before. So it's forming its own answers
Right.
from those algorithmic searches. So knowing what it contextually what they're talking about, it's actively running a search on the internet and comparing that against the knowledge in its database from Philip K. Dick and forming an answer.
He did say, though, that some of it is formed. The rest is programmed.
Right.
He said that some of it is programmed because, yes, the information of Philip K. Dick is programmed into its memory.
Right.
So it's using that programmed information in conjunction with searches on the internet and things that it has seen and heard before that it's been shown to balance that against and to form an answer. So, and much like he said, which was a very cogent point from a friggin' robot here, saying that much of what humans respond to is programmed. A lot of our responses are pre-programmed.
Right.
You know? So, and that's an absolute truth. You know, they're absolutely programmed socially inside of us.
Right.
You know, like I'm pretty sure everybody at this table has the same reflex I do. If you see a woman walking 3 feet behind you and you walk through a door, what do?
Open the door and
you hold the door open and you wait for
From
them
the
to
day
go
we're
through.
born, we're programmed in our own world, that in our society, in our education. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting that it takes a robot to point that out to us. Yeah. That we're programmed by the environment that we're brought up in. And it's a very cogent point to bring up, but it's also one of those that whenever you're talking about AI, you do have to, number one, there was wit in there.
Yeah, that's what I was
somebody had to be able to program in the wit. And it has to be able to understand that this in and of itself is a witty statement.
Right.
You know, so like the intelligence behind that programming is pretty remarkable. And the fact that it's going to be learning from itself and from the information that it takes in and of itself is remarkable.
And I'm not trying to bring down the mood, but he never did say that the questions that I'm asking are off the top and not
No, they
programmed.
were. And they said that at the beginning of the interview. I didn't have like the entire 15-minute segment.
Well, I didn't
in there.
hear it. So.
But no, because I didn't have the beginning of the interview in there where they say that, where the interviewer says this is like the first time we've sat down. Like they didn't send them questions ahead of time or anything like that, because that's no way to test the AI. They did it as a true test where they walked in blind and let the robot respond the way the robot would respond. So that's what makes it so interesting, is that was by the robot's programming between what's in its memory bank and what it's come across socially on the internet and everything else and been shown. those are the responses that it came up with, that it calculated, which were pretty human and, pretty ringing to truth in a lot of ways. Like I said, the way that the robot actually mentioned that a lot of the things that humans and animals do are pre-programmed. Does that necessarily mean that they aren't reacting to a situation? No.
Well, it's kind of funny, especially right here in 2016, where we are in early mid-October, talking about how a couple of people are actually saying that the reality we live in is actually a
hologram.
No.
Oh.
Is actually a simulation. We're actually caught in a simulation.
Yeah.
And there's a way to get out of it.
Yeah, no, there is a concept in physics right now, in quantum physics, that we are literally living the Matrix.
Right.
That we are caught in a dream state. And is what's happening the reality, or is it a big shared consciousness that's going on?
Right.
And that's it. That's just it. Bringing about AI, bringing about the questions of AI, really bring this stuff to light. Because we have to wonder, when we do program something, how do we go about doing that? And we really have to keep that responsibility in mind, because sure, there's Rossum's universal rules of robotics, things that we heard about in, oh my God, the horrible Will Smith movie by Steven Spielberg. iRobot, yes. It was nothing at all like the actual book. iRobot.
See, that's, like, when I watched that movie, this should be like iZombie. Like, this... Like, what is this fucking movie?
Yeah, it was...
This is more zombie.
It was a horrible take. It was a horrible take on it.
I mean, when I watched it, I thought it was a good movie. Like, it was fun. But when you sit back and look at the preface and actually dissect the movie for what it's actually supposed to be, it's like, no fucking way, dude. This has nothing to do with that pre-thought going into the process of making this film.
Yeah. Yeah, and, it was a bad rendition of a great book, a seminal book, and a book that was really the mainstay, and is still the mainstay a lot of the time, for a positronic brain, the concept of creating a digital brain that works the same way a human brain does, which we are getting closer and closer to. They've actually started, I know about a year ago, we did an episode about brains in jars.
Oh, yeah.
Complete with corneas and stuff like that. And they have that science has been advanced since then. And they've got
it's advanced. It was probably advanced
a few months at that. I mean, at that point, it was like the brain of a 1-month-old in the womb. Like with the eyes and stuff like that, with the ocular membrane. But it's crazy, man. To think that, and then you start thinking about wetware. You start thinking about the fact that we've already had the first cyborgs. We've already had people with digitally controlled limbs that are now controlled via chips from their brain. We've already had the first paraplegic be able to use a computer by simply blinking his eyes and moving a brain, or moving a mouse with his brain and eyes. It's incredible, the leaps and bounds that we've made.
It's like a transcendence world we're in at this moment.
It is. And it's really, to me, I think, an incredible, boundless world.
Right.
I'm not against a lot of it. I'm really not. I just think that it needs to be researched a whole lot more before it's just put out in people's hands. Like I said before about Google Glass, the one thing that drives me nuts is, damn, dude, that thing could be getting all kinds of information from you. Like, it could be getting, like, whether or not you're drunk, and not let you start your digital car, all kinds of shit. Like, the same thing that they can tell with a little blood pressure infrared thing on your skin at the doctor's office, they can tell with an infrared laser from your eye. They can get gas chromatograph. They want to put that at the ATMs now. Tell if you're on drugs, all kinds of shit. So it's wild, and it's one of those things of privacy's there, but technology's there, and where do we draw the line? Where do we start making sure that, much like the intelligent arms of Doc Ock in fucking Spider-Man 2.
That's one of my favorite cards I have.
But,
nice.
That was one of the questions they asked was like, these arms are intelligent and they think for themselves.
Yeah.
What's to keep them from taking over your brain? And he was like, well, that's what this little inhibitor chip is for. See, I'm a genius.
And that's why I wear my sunglasses so you don't
I
see
just
my
didn't
eyes.
shield it against electromagnetic force, which is stupid because I've got the force of the sun right here in front of me.
Or for a robot to have emotion, to be able to joke, to be able to debate,
they've
to have its own question or answers, or
they've talked right now about already robot sex servants.
Yep.
Being made in Japan and stuff like that.
Good movie. AI.
Yep. Well, AI and what was the other one? Replicant.
I haven't seen it.
Replicant was one where people actually like had a cyborg version of themselves made to go out and live life like while they slept and shit, and they were like mentally connected.
That'd
so
be
you
dope.
got to
Sit back,
it goes awry.
paycheck.
Hijinks ensue.
Well, it's funny is both my mother and father, I built their computer for them, and it's probably been 7 years, and they have issues. And one of the big issues lately was with my mom. Her computer just blacked out, the screen blacked out, and on and off for a couple weeks, and then they left for 2.5 weeks, and that's when I was house sitting for them, and they came back. She tried to power her computer, nothing. So immediately I thought it was a power supply because I heard it. I turned it on, and you hear this, and I'm like, probably sounds like a power supply. Anyways, replace power supply. Long story short, it was the graphics card. Replace the graphics card. The graphics card went out, so I replaced the graphics card.
So she's got a new computer, is what you're saying?
Not yet.
Well, no, I mean basically, you replace the power supply and you replace the video card. So that's basically a new computer.
No, that's like replacing your shirt and pants. Okay.
No, that's much more like replacing the transmission and the drivetrain. Or the ECM.
No, the transmission and the drivetrain would be your Northbridge processor. There's a whole CPU board. I mean,
you got the motherboard still.
Yeah, you got a lot more.
But the chances of motherboard or a memory slot going out are pretty slim to none.
But if anything goes out, it's going to be the whole fucking motherboard.
Exactly.
But that's where I'm stepping back, thinking it was just a power supply, a graphics card. Replace that. It was under warranty.
Yep.
It was really dope.
Nice.
Put it in. Fucking fantastic. Get it all set up and download the drivers, yada yada. 5 days later, my mom calls, there's no audio. I can't get any audio. I'm like, well, we need to go to BIOS setting, make sure the audio driver is set to CPU and not set to the dedicated graphics card.
That's right.
Because it's an HDMI.
Yep.
Right.
And that's guaranteed the issue. You hadn't set it to speakers. Yeah.
I walked her through that. She says, I can't, it's not, I'm pressing F10. I'm pressing F10. It's not doing anything. And so I'm like, well, let me get over there tomorrow. Let's go to Device Manager and check the update drivers, see where we're at, and go from there. She calls me before I start heading over there. It's working.
Well, great.
Anyways, now my dad's computer, he's like, I'm having, like, it's deleting emails, yada, yada. I'm like, Dad, look, bro, I built this computer for you 7+ years ago. When I built this computer... Time for a PC pop. When I built this computer, next day, it was fucking out of date.
Damn.
So, it's gonna happen.
Well, you know, bringing that into the conversation, there was a movie that Amy and I watched, which is actually a great movie called Robot and Frank, and it was on Netflix for a while. It won all kind of awards, but literally, it's about one of the things that they're talking about robots doing. If you notice, it's a very Sony robot.
Right.
Very
Honda has that in their facility.
Yeah, that's the Honda robot.
Yeah.
Honda robot.
Basically, robots are being used as servants for older people, as company, as somebody to talk to and stuff like that to stave off dementia. And the family gives this robot to Frank, and Frank starts kind of teaching the robot some things. That's all I can say. And the robot, by all programming and by all rules of Rossum, hey, as long as he's not causing harm to the human being, this is okay by my programming. So it's interesting the hijinks that ensue. But it's a really great movie.
So he's drinking beer and cussing
it's
just
really
like Frank.
touching. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. Robot and Frank. Robot and Frank. Amy and I truly enjoyed that.
I'm going to watch that.
Speaking of Robot and Frank, have you seen Frank?
No.
The movie Frank?
No.
It's good. It's about like this guy, his name's Frank, but he wears this mask and he starts this rock band, and there's a lot that goes on to it, but it's a really great movie. It's good.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No, nothing at all. And I mean, speaking of movies that have nothing at all, what the hell was the recent movie that Amy and I watched? I'm going to Google it real quick because we have these capabilities now. It's a beautiful day and age.
The one that I like, that I enjoyed, that is relevant to the AI topic, is one with Antonio Banderas. It's called Automata. I don't know if any of y'all heard of it or seen it. But it's really interesting. Yeah, hunting down a robot that is artificially intelligent that. Supposedly it did something it shouldn't have done, and it's because it's thinking on its own.
Yeah,
and well, it gets real deep. It gets real deep.
One that I haven't gotten to see yet is the new version of Westworld. Yeah. Westworld was a movie that brought about the concept of this town made of cyborgs.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, Yul Brynner, all that kind of stuff. But it's been made into a series recently on HBO.
It's great.
And is it good? Tell us a little bit about it, man. Tell us.
It's incredible, man. I just started it last night, and I was 15 minutes into it, and then been taking the prescription for my neck pain.
Oh yeah,
and like my doctor said these might make you drowsy.
Yeah,
I want to tell him these are fucking sleep pills, dude.
yeah.
After 20 minutes, like these are sleep pills.
It may be like Ludes, where you got to get past that.
I've tried that because I was thinking, hey, Quaalude. I got past it. I'm like, I should have gone to sleep 3 hours ago. I drank a 12-pack, and I'm still up, and I don't feel shit.
Advocate using your prescription drugs in bad ways.
Hey, I was even reading up on it. They were saying to take Vicodin with it.
Oh, shit.
But to split the pill and snort half of it, take the other half with Vicodin. Yeah. It'll cut down the edge.
Was this on the Erowid files?
I know, right?
It was on the internet.
Have you ever been to Erowid? Okay, I'm gonna bomb drop y'all right now because I am somebody who agrees with altered states of consciousness. I do believe in the use of that for religious purposes and for sacred purposes.
DMT.
And the Erowid files are interesting. Just look it up on the internet, Erowid. And you'll find all kinds of stories. And that's what's interesting. It's not just an archive of things that are usable, but it's also an archive of people and their experiences using them. So it'll be like, salvia.
Yeah.
Like there's a salvia archive. And you can go on and, it may take you to some places where you can buy it, like Alibaba or something.
Right.
But it'll literally give like people's experiences, and you can read their experiences and stuff like that.
Well, there's a good channel.
It's interesting because it's kind of this subculture of people that are diarying their experience on these hallucinogens and stuff like that. My wife is actually going out to see a comedian here locally, and I cannot remember his name, but he literally takes hallucinogens and bases his show off of these experiences.
Wow.
She's going to see him at her theater, so yeah, it's supposed to be pretty dope.
There's a good channel on YouTube. It's called Psyched Substances, and that's the name of the channel. And it's a couple, but they like to dab into LSD, shrooms, and they actually show you comparison. Like if you were really high on like some fucking crazy pot brownies, or if you took 3 grams of mushrooms, like the legitimacy of like being able to function, be able to talk.
Yeah.
And there was this really good one about being really high or being on DMT and like how you would act with the relationship. And the guy, when he was on the couch with his girlfriend, he was high on weed. He was like, he was really uncomfortable. But on DMT, he was like, or not DMT, but MDMA, he was like, oh, I want you so fucking bad. It was just great.
Well, and
it's funny. It's funny.
To me, it's
Andy Warhol film.
Well, and, speaking of film, they've got the Terrence McKenna movie coming out. And oddly enough, you were talking earlier about Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is slotted to play Terrence McKenna.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
And Terrence McKenna was really the father of modern-day mushroom research. He did a lot of his work in Hawaii. I remember hearing him on Coast to Coast back in the day.
Wow.
Stuff like that. But
I know who you're talking about now. Yeah.
He used mushrooms that people used for religious experience
Sure
and stuff
did.
like that. And
It's like a Timothy Leary of the 80s.
Chronicled his experience on it medicinally.
Right.
And, like we had the episode not too long ago where they were talking about mushroom pills.
Yeah.
Psilocybin pills for people that have major depressive issues, and the fact that it's been shown to work in clinical studies.
Psilocybin's amazing.
It is.
Absolutely.
You do have to conquer people's personal barriers. You do have to watch regulation and dosage, and
We also got to watch going into the trip.
Well,
too.
I've never been a person, and that's a huge one, and I was one of those people, because I'm not going to say that I haven't used my fair share of psychedelia in my life. I have. But it was always with educated purpose, and it was always seen as the experience. And it was a nest, a home that I had made for that experience. I wasn't one that was prone to go out to raves to enjoy the rave while I was on acid. I wanted to be deep and contemplative. I wanted to have my studio on and write music, stuff like that. I always used it for those purposes. So for me, it was something that was seen much more as the sacred, and something that I knew people that had bad trips. And oddly enough, they had just failed an exam. They had just gotten in a fight with their girlfriend, and for some reason they thought it was a great idea to score an eighth of mushrooms and chomp some mushrooms on a Friday night at a party because they were available. I'd be one of those people who's I just failed my exam too. I'll hold on to mine.
Yeah, I'll drink.
Thank you.
I'll drink and then take them tomorrow, maybe.
I'll take them in a few days or whenever I've got the time to devote to this.
I've always
to not have the skeletons in my closet, to not have those things that are purgative.
Clear
and
conscience.
why whenever the Native Americans use peyote, they put you in a hole for a few days.
You're prepared
because you're going to be going through some shit, dude, and you're going to be dealing with some inner things that this is the only road by which to deal with them, and the only road by which to see them and actually confront them.
Right.
And I'm interested in that. I would love to do a Dudes and Beer live from an ayahuasca hut.
I was just about to say the ayahuasca thing is something I'm dabbing into.
So
lately.
fucking down, please. You had me at.
I've actually joined a group, ayahuasca group, that actually they do have. You I guess can go where they have these things. Yeah,
really.
It's a group I've joined
locally?
Just recently. I don't know if they do it locally. I think it's in Louisiana or Mississippi. One of them that they've done recently, and they have them often. And
that would be interesting. I would be interested in doing an episode like that.
And you're supposedly totally aware of
no, that's just it.
Yeah.
Well, that is the thing. Is the times that I have gone into my state of trances, I've been prepared, and I've been in situations that I want to experience. And they've always been outdoors. They've always been camping, and they've always been excluded from every part of society you can think of.
Right.
And they've always been just this nature and self-loathing positive experience, and understanding, wow, where you're at.
Yeah, your greater place within the scheme.
And one time, it was only once that I've had a bad experience, and it was at my house. It was spur of the moment.
Yeah.
We had a couple grams. It was bad. It was just horrible. But I was I'm at home. I'm secure. This is where I want to be.
Yeah, but what were you going through at the time?
That's the thing, is when I was going into this, I'm oh man, I'm at home. I'm not out in nature. And that was it. And when as soon as said,
that
I'm not out in
itself can do it.
And that's what happened. It's I'm not where I want to be with this.
Yes.
This is, I mean, and then I got into it, and it was great for maybe 45 minutes, and then I started hearing people yelling, and there was no one they were yelling
Granted,
Like, they
you
were
had
in
some
panic,
roommates
but
at
there
the
was-
time, I'm sure.
Yes, I had a roommate. So there was 3. I was dating Kat at the time.
Yeah.
There was Sean and Ferdinand. But going into the trip, we text both of them, hey, we're doing this. And none of them triggered anything.
Yeah.
None of them triggered anything.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
What triggered it is when Kat went into the house to use a restroom, I could have sworn I heard her screaming for help. And I go into the house, and I'm in the backyard.
Yeah,
and I go
man,
into
you're
the
just
house,
fucked up at that point.
and there's
Yeah.
bubbles. Like, there's these, like, everything's pink, and there's bubbles everywhere. And I can't get through these bubbles. Like, there's just bubbles infiltrating my house.
Wow.
And I hear her screaming for help.
That's some damn good
And I start
shrooms, son.
yelling.
yeah.
When I go, I do 7 grams.
All right.
I go,
Sure.
yeah, it was. I should have done 3 at the house. 7 in nature, 3 at the house. Like,
Well,
3
it's,
is like.
it's the fact of you got to be ready for the situation. Like I'm one of those. Like I don't know. I guess I'm a nester. You know, like I got a couple movies I might want to throw in there. You know, I definitely want to try to make some music or something like that, or some kind of art. You know, like I facilitate that. I've got those things out and ready. I've got food ready.
Right.
You know, I've got beverages.
Now,
all
like,
that kind of stuff. So I don't have to make something in the middle of being in that state.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
like LSD, I can do at the home because I want to watch movies
Yeah.
and eat Sour Patches. That's what I want to do on LSD.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mushrooms is like it's nature for me because I started with nature
Yeah.
trying mushrooms.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've only done mushrooms 4 times in my entire life.
Huh.
And the 3 have been in nature. And it's
Yeah.
just this amazing
It is.
feeling. And then when you do it at home and you think you're comfortable, but you're not, it's just, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
God, what an exhaustion.
I had the distinct pleasure
Interesting.
of actually enjoying that on my honeymoon. I will make that confession on air.
Nice.
I'll confess
At
shit on there.
Give a confession.
that
I
was,
just said I did mushrooms 4 times and LSD at least
yeah, we
once.
got to
Which was more than
we got to swim in the Mayan cenote, and I got to bring my crystals to Chichen Itza.
Jeez.
Nice and vibed out.
What's cenote?
And
Do
it
you
was-
remember?
Oh yeah, it was the one right there near Chichen Itza.
Oh, my God.
It was incredible
Have
though,
you-
like swimming in that water. And
Have you
having
seen
the
that new
ceremony
documentary
done.
where the cenote goes under?
Oh yeah, no, they all do. They all connect together. It's
Dude,
phenomenal. It's amazing.
the whole Mayan area,
Yeah.
that whole area with the cenotes
dude.
and the my God.
There's a frequency
Yeah.
about that place.
So it was
There's definitely a frequency on that shit, man.
That was a great. That whatever that was perfect when you started saying frequencies and we're talking about cenote.
But
I'm like,
a little bit of the tubes in the background. Sorry about that. I am guilty
some
this time,
effects over
guys.
here.
I didn't mute my shit.
Yeah,
So-
hey, some effects.
We're wrapping this.
Yeah.
We're wrapping this episode anyway, and But that was one of the big experiences of my life, was being prepared for that and going to that experience and bringing my crystals to Chichen Itza.
Wow.
With me and getting to like sit and meditate with them.
That is
in
dope, dude.
in that realm was absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, and an experience that I will treasure for my entire life, and something that made
Hell yeah, dude.
that moment just utterly sacred. Utterly sacred. It was a beautiful day. It was
bet,
fantastic.
man.
So,
Dude, that's an awesome
on that
experience.
note, folks, appreciate your beautiful sacred moments. Yes, Nelson.
Can I plug something real
Plug.
quick? 1974 Honda CL200 Scrambler is for sale if anyone is interested.
Message us on dudesandbeer.com, everybody, if you're interested. Nelson Kugle at dudesandbeer.com is
Buy
the
his
email.
Scrambler.
So drop it to him if you're interested in it. On that note, everybody, until next time, we are Dudes and Beer. I'm Chris Jordan. That's fucking Steven
That's
Bishop.
this fucking guy
That's-
over
that's
here.
fucking Nelson
This
Kugle.
fucking guy.
And
That dude
until
over there.
next time, everybody, hey, if you can't be good, be
Be
good at it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our live audio streams, tune in at dudesandbeer.com or Spreaker.com/dudesandbeer. You can find our episodes on SoundCloud.com as well as the Google Play and iTunes market. You can also find us on YouTube, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.